Good afternoon. Hello, my friends. How are you? It is good to see everybody on this space and environmental coffee house. Really good. Actually, I have a packed show. Like usual, we're going to talk about security today. We're going to talk about security because I'm going to show you a graphic. This graphic is what started me down this road on to study what was happening, especially since we got the information that, oh gee, the West Coast might get, who knows, let me see, can I make, yeah, that's better, that the West Coast might get hit, right? And some people, of course, are saying that that's false flag season. Oh my goodness. Yeah, right. Okay, but really, we need to talk about a lot of things, and I wanted to take the I really wanted to take the opportunity to educate on this. I thought it was really important. So I'm going to put this one back on, and I'm going to talk about this. Now, the graphic, think about it though. This graphic is like it's a kind of a powerful little graphic, it says, well, what if this war spreads and what happens here in the United States? And I don't want to scare anybody here. That's of course not my aim to scare anyone. It's more not for fear, but we want to look at this today. I want to look at modern infrastructure. I want to look at warfare, nuclear facility risks, which there are many, and grid and internet. So we're going to look at the grid. We're going to look at the hacks too, because there have been hacks that happened. Actually, I just found out about the hack that the FBI was hacked, and supposedly the Epstein files were hacked. So this graphic, actually, what does it show us? It shows us that we're vulnerable in a lot of places, but that vulnerability is basically the nuclear targets. There's a lot more. There are a lot more. There's a lot more to see in this. I have a lot of graphics. Let me show you this one. We'll look at this one instead. I'm going to remove that one. We're going to look at that now. You see, the East Coast is quite well represented in some of this. It is absolutely well represented in so many ways. Correct? Oh yeah. So um I just want to say, look, that original map I put up was actually from the National Resources Defense Council, and it was an analysis of strategic targets in a very large scale nuclear exchange. But again, a nuclear exchange, which we don't know what could happen. But I wanted it started me off on this. And it was like, well, how would your state do in World War III? Well, in my opinion, we're in World War III. But supposedly, didn't Donald Trump say we actually got rid of the nuclear threats from Iran? Didn't we get rid of the nuclear threats? I mean, seriously, we got rid of them. So uh, that's what they said, But we have all kinds of garbage that is really always. But this is, there we go again. There's the nuclear stuff. All right. So let's move on. And I want to talk about the map. I mean, that map was the it's not random cities really. It's it the targets aren't random. They're command centers and air bases and missile silos and naval bases and infrastructure hubs. There are even places like where nuclear waste, like West Valley, which isn't that far from me, is stored. There's all kinds of place. So a lot of modern war focus on the infrastructure and logistics, not just people, at least what we like to think, although we're seeing in this that a lot of people are being affected, like the schoolgirls in Iran. Look at what happened in Gaza, flattened. I mean, that's the definition of insanity. But this rise of infrastructure warfare, it's nothing we haven't seen, but the energy, oil refineries and gas pipelines. Oh, I used to talk about a lot of that way back when I started on Environmental Coffee House. I would do so much research because of the Dakota Access Pipeline and the Northern Access Pipeline, which is something I fought with people here in Western New York, and we won, and it was never done. But I used to sit down and I'd have paperwork, and I would do my live streams at my dining room table with paperwork all written out of all my notes. Now I don't do it on paper as much as I do it on, I type it up and I put it on the screen. I read it. But I mean, it was incredible. So energy, what is our energy? Oil refineries, gas pipelines, LNG, fuel depots. Notice how I didn't mention solar farms and windmills because, well, the tornadoes that just happened are doing a good enough job on decimating the solar farms. Nobody has to do that. Mother Nature is doing that, fueled by a little bit of, global warming. Yeah. And then we move on to electric. We've got the grid substations, we've got transmission nodes, we've got power plants. We've got a lot of vulnerabilities really everywhere in the country. Think about the power plants. You live where you live. I mean, I could just go right up the road and there's one those power plant things. Let's see if I have a picture of one maybe I could put up. A little power plant looking thing, and I had a lot of images here. Well, look at what that looks like. You know what this looks like this. Yeah, we're going to look at that. There's a power plant. So we see that these things are all over. These things are all over, and very often they are not very secure. I mean, there's one not far. I mean, they're really not that secure. There may be cameras. I don't think they have a lot of security. Are they vulnerable? Maybe. They might be. But they are what they are. And they are, I guess they're transmission nodes, if you want to call them that. And there's substations, lots of substations all over. And then you think of, how about transportation? Ports and rail hubs. Oh my gosh. I mean, my daughter lived right next to the bomb trains, the trains in Buffalo when she owned her house, and airports. And it's something I'm going to talk a little bit more about today is communications due to the hacks that we learned about today, and internet exchange points, fiber landing stations. These are the physical things like satellite facilities. But what's happening more, I'd say, is internal hacking, a lot of it. Of course, it's all blamed on Iran now, you know, and we don't know because I'm going to talk about CISA, which has the CISA in trouble. That was an agency that was for cybersecurity in the government. But, I'll talk about that today also. Now, you think about some of this, and you saw what happened in Ukraine to their energy grid, right? All those attacks on the energy grid. And in the Middle East, refinery strikes are happening now. Look what happened in Iran, in Tehran. The oil refineries have been decimating, and that's something we're going to talk about Friday night in the War versus Nature show I'm doing. What happened with the oil that is in the air, that is all over the place. it's just killing wildlife and it's going to kill people. But pipeline sabotage, we saw that with that pipeline that was sabotaged early in the Ukraine war. And again, these drone attacks on these things. So modern conflict really aims to collapse all kinds of systems that keep economies and essentially civilization functioning. Really, everything, everything. So I'm going to take this one down and let me play a little video for you.
An energy expert called our power grid the Achilles heel of the U.S. We know how easy it can be to cripple it.
Last December, you'll remember when someone shot up 2 power stations in Moore County. A month later, someone vandalized a station in Randolph County.
These are just 2 of the 919 attacks on America's power grid since 2010. Experts blame a lack of security standards. WFMY News 2's Ben Briscoe learned more about the effort to protect your power.
Take this spot in Jamestown. There's no guards. From this hill, a bad guy could do a lot of damage. And from the air over there, you can see they built a walking trail right next to it.
Since 2010, there have been 919 physical attacks against the electric grid, according to U.S. Department of Energy data.
Mike Mabee runs the watchdog website Grid Security Now. He says this attack, caught on camera in California way back in 2013, prompted lawmakers to force the power industry to come up with safety standards.
The industry fought against it. They said, no, we don't need a physical security standard. So the government said, no, we're going to do one. The industry wrote this physical security standard that they didn't want to write. So we shouldn't be surprised that it's not terribly effective. The standard requires very, very little. It requires that they have a notebook that says physical security. And that's basically it. That's what the physical security standard requires.
Just to be clear, it does not require walls around substations. Nope. It doesn't require guards, security cameras.
Nothing. No, it doesn't require any specific things. It just requires that they have a notebook, that says physical security, a physical security plan.
That was so shocking. I double-checked with another expert. Richard Moroz with Protect Our Power is a former commissioner of the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners.
Barriers and the monitoring at the sites. Right now, none of that is required by law.
Well, it isn't required by law because it's not specifically identified in either a piece of legislation or regulation.
What are some obvious protective measures to you that aren't being done now?
Yeah, well, I found curious that in the events of the last couple of weeks, there were those attacks on substations. There seemed to be even very minor security measures, locking of the gates and so forth. And also, it's not clear that there were remote monitoring efforts, electronic monitoring, video monitoring. The industry and regulators may need to be looking at those kinds of measures.
Energy companies say it's a tough job to protect their equipment from vandals and terrorists. Here's a spokesperson from Energy WWIII after their Randolph substation was attacked last month.
We have power lines everywhere, substations everywhere. So to be able to think that we could ever prevent 100%, it's just not really possible. I do think we're going to have to take a stronger look in light of recent events as to how we can step it up.
Duke Energy tells Triad today they've got a whole team working on this issue.
And so the responsibility to maintain the grid and maintain security is paramount. And we've got a great, top-notch group of folks that monitor threat assessments and respond to threats 24/7.
And they have a plan to respond if an attack happens again.
A lot of the work that we're doing is centered around the installation of self-healing teams. Well, that's technology that allows us to detect and isolate outages and restore power to customers to help avoid, sustained outages.
In the North Carolina General Assembly, there is a bill that would require 24-hour security at important substations. Grid security has also caught the attention of a United States senator on the Energy Committee, which plans to hold a hearing on the issue soon.
firing a gun, 2 shots, 3 shots into a substation, literally putting tens of thousands of people without power for days on end. That ought to be all our concern.
By the way, the government has been aware of these problems for years. In fact, the Government Accountability Office has issued several audits laying out in detail problems with the power grid and making recommendations to secure your power. The biggest of those reports came back in 2019, but at the end of last year, the GAO said these recommendations have not been implemented yet, leaving the grid vulnerable.
So there weren't really a lot of things I could find, but I think you got the idea from that one video that helps you understand where we are in that. Yes, the American grid is extremely vulnerable. We've seen it. Now we have to deal with drone warfare. So when that little video was made, it wasn't just they weren't even talking about drones. Wasn't even in the picture of thought. That was 3 years old, I think. I was looking for something that wouldn't get a copyright, that was more current, but that's what I found. And I thought it explained it very well. But now we have drone warfare to the critical infrastructure. They're cheap. They're harder to detect, really. They're precise and they are expendable. As we are seeing, the Iranians are using $20,000 drones and we're using $2 million Tomahawks. So the United States is certainly not up with it with the drones in the military. Supposedly we have the most powerful and the biggest military in the world, and Donald Trump completely overhauled the military. And where are we? We're losing things. We're not doing very well, I would say. Nope. But think about this. So drones can be used for the oil installations, the storage tanks, the pumping stations, the refineries. This is what we are seeing happening between Israel and Iran and Lebanon. Ugh, this whole thing is disgusting. But the power infrastructures too, drones could hit transformers and substations, and even the little ones, even those little drones, they can be like incredibly large disruptors if they hit a high value component. Now, one thing I want to show you. I want to show you this one where I want to talk about these power companies because I want to take a little aside just to show you. These are community owned utilities in the United States. Now, these are like where I live. We own our little tiny municipality. These are community owned. I would ever hope that if anybody was going to target anything, it would not be a small community owned utility because like us, we don't buy from a company. We buy right from the grid, we get the hydrocarbons. But now I wanted to show you this one, which I thought was very interesting. Investor owned utilities all over the country. These are the utilities that are the real corporate capitalist, big time utilities all over. And like your National Fuel, well, I'm in New York. Con Edison, National Fuel. I don't know what the name is of all these companies, but just as an aside, it shows you how we are in the United States. Overwhelmingly investor owned. And then you look at the community owned, which is great, should be nationalized. This is how it should be all over, actually. Okay. So I took my little detour to show you how we are in the United States, for sure. And then, so we're looking at the drones, but I do now want to take a few minutes on the nuclear facility risks because they really are scary. And I had watched a video today on Hoople's Cat channel. And Hoople's Cat is a wonderful podcast. He has a great channel, HUPLES. I'll put I'll put it in the show notes because I'm not showing the video, but I would have. Several years ago, he made a video and he made several videos on what happens. He was an ER nurse in a huge Toronto hospital. Like he was pretty big in there. He worked all through the pandemic and he's a great teacher. He's a prepper, but he's not a right-wing nutty prepper. He's just really good at what he does. And his video today was, well, it was from 3 years ago, and I remember at the time I watched it, I bought everything. I have the bag right out there. I forgot to bring it in. I bought the iodine, the water. I have filters. I have the water purifiers. I have everything. But he talked all about what would happen. He talked about the physical things that would happen from a meltdown or a target or any of but he talked about radiation sickness. He talked about how sick you could get from it. I'll give you an example. If something happened to a nuclear facility, the first day, if you throw up and you have diarrhea the first day, you're going to die. If it happens the second day, you're going to be very sick. If it doesn't happen till the third or fourth day, you may have a shot. You've got to take iodine. There are a lot of things that you need to do. And if you all are concerned about all of this kind of stuff, subscribe to Hoople's Cat. He's phenomenal. In fact, I'm inviting him on my show and I hope he comes. But nuclear plants, they have these, multiple layers of protection. And maybe I'll just put that video, that one back on. Let's put this back up. Let's see how I make myself bigger. Okay, we'll put this back up just so you have something else to look at besides me. And these plants, they have a lot of layers of protection. They have reinforced containment structures, and they have backup cooling systems. They have multiple emergency generators. They have automatic shutdown systems. But there are a lot of risks because power supplies can be lost. How are they powered? By the grid. Right. And yeah, cooling systems fail. Spent fuel pools are damaged, and those fuel pools are really a contention. What did we see with Chernobyl and Fukushima? And there are people that think that a lot of what we're seeing in environmental arenas are still the things that happened from Fukushima, that it was one of the biggest things ever to happen, and that humanity is still feeling the ramifications. Of course, Western reactors are built with far stronger containment designs. So if there was an attack, it doesn't necessarily mean that it would be an explosion. It really doesn't. We don't know. We haven't been tested. We don't want to be tested, do we? But if an accident happened, it's basic safety, it's awareness, it's not panic. And like Hoople's Cat explains, it would be the radiological contamination, not a nuclear blast. I really should have pulled up his video. But I wrote to him and asked permission, and I didn't hear back, and I really didn't want to do it without his permission. But there are basic protective principles for the nuclear issue. And that would be, first of all, get inside. Stay inside. Limit your exposure to anything airborne. Now, a lot of people now, here's another thing that has been in the news on the bunkers. And I did a show called Bunker Babies years ago, all about these bunkers. And now people are talking about it again because of the fact that bunkers are being bought by gazillionaires. And even people that aren't gazillionaires, they go from like $20,000 to all kinds of things. And I mean, I'm sorry, I wouldn't want to sit in a little container in my yard. I mean, I've already decided if shit hits the fan and I'm getting radiation, I'm done, and my cats are done. Goodbye. But I mean, what are you going to do? You have to. But anyway, these bunkers, they are crazy. in my opinion, but they're happening. I mean, it was a Texas firm that's making all his money now. And don't think that all of this cybersecurity shit isn't an opportunity for the capitalists chomping at the bit to make money. That's exactly why I had said, oh boy, could be false flag season, because everybody in the United States is always looking to make money off of all of this shit. You look at the Trump sons. They're now making money out of everything. And I did some research and I came upon these cybersecurity on X. Everybody wants to jump in. Everybody wants to jump in. So yeah, false flag season. This is the shit that's totally going around, that they're totally talking about. That the whole West Coast thing is a false flag. And anyway, so if something happened in some kind of emergency with a nuke plant, you're going to have to listen to emergency broadcasts. And if something went down simultaneously, that's where ham radio is going to be important. And I highly recommend it. I'm learning a little bit. The book is hard. I have ham radios my brother gave me. The book is hard, but I'm a prepper somewhat. And that's why I bought all the things, the preps for the radiation that Hooplecat suggested, especially for water and to take the iodine. I don't know. So they tell you local government instructions. I would probably trust the local government, like my area, these first responders, more than the federal government at this point, because the federal government in DC under the Trump administration is inept in everything they do. They're inept. But of course, it would be closing windows. Don't turn on your air conditioner. Use an interior room and get something to monitor radiation. And then see what your local community has as evacuation zones. It's all going to be local, baby. It's all going to be local. And we have a question about the sleeper cells, but I'm not there yet. We know that there are people probably in the United States, but yet we have to be very careful. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So, why? Why do people fear? Why are we scared of this stuff? It's huge right now. People are talking about it because this world we live in, guys, is interconnected. Everything is interconnected. And our electric grid, our communications networks, financial systems, the satellite infrastructure, everything. And they're key vulnerabilities. They are completely. Large transformers are expensive. They are hard to replace. They are often imported. I mean, can you think about this? If you had damage to multiple substations, how much could that be disruptive? First of all, a lot of the parts from these stations were made in other countries. Trump has put tariffs on everything. So it will take months to repair things that get damaged like that because of tariffs, because of this war. So many reasons that we're looking at. And the internet infrastructure depends on fiber optic cables and data centers. Let's look at the data center. Where are they? Look at the data centers. They're all over the United States, and they are projected to proliferate and grow and grow. And we're trying to fight them off. Obviously, the rural communities have been really trying to fight them. So then you look at this, right? And they are definite vulnerabilities because these data centers are being used more and more, and AI is being used more and more to control things in the government. And we're seeing that whole Anthropic clusterfuck right now that's happening, which I'm not prepared to talk about today. But we are talking, these are things that are absolutely happening. So there's other things besides that. We have all those internet exchange points, and we have the submarine cables. Don't forget the underground, the under the ocean. There is nowhere that humanity has not touched with technology. And any attack at any key hub could disrupt communications. And my God, the sacred cow of the stock market might go down. Lordy, Lordy, if it's not the stock market that they're going to protect, I don't know what these people in this administration are going to protect. Yeah, absolutely not going to protect. But I mean, the stock market, you see, they manipulate the stock market. Donald Trump just manipulated the stock market the other day by saying, oh, this war is almost over. It's just, a little nothing, pretty much is what he said. So, yeah, and then there are some reassurances in that the internet is highly redundant, or so the experts say, which means traffic can reroute through other pathways. So there are some protections. Now, we're going to go back to the original map. And I wanted to talk about that map because that graphic actually it reflects a Cold War strategic planning assumption. And I downloaded a book. I can't pull it up. I downloaded a PDF, but I'll tell you it's called, if it comes up, I can't see it. Oh, it is called Nuclear War Survival Skills. It was updated and expanded in 1987, and it was originally written in 1979 by Crescent Kearney, but the foreword was by Edward Teller. Yeah, Edward Teller. No shit. But there's a lot of stuff out there. But I brought this up because what this map actually shows is the military infrastructure, command nodes, missile fields, and logistic hubs, but they do not represent an inevitable outcome. Not now, because of everything that's changed. But again, that's the map that got me started on going down this rabbit hole of reference, to research. And research I did. I found so much, and it's so much that an hour is not going to do this justice. So modern deterrence things exist to prevent so many of those scenarios. So I wanted to go on to the cyber hacking and talk about, well, okay, Thomas, wait a minute. Thomas said that the map is still accurate. No, I believe the map is accurate, but there have been different ways of dealing with what the potentials are in the protections. That's all. That's it. I mean, but that's the map that got me started. It's not that it's not accurate, but things do change. All right. So let's talk about these are called muddy water and static kitten or temp zagros and seedworm. And these are Iranian cyber espionage groups. And this is what has been asserted, that these are the groups that are now doing some state-linked Iranian advanced persistent threats. And it does exist. Because again, I did ask somebody who is extremely close to me, is an executive with a large corporation in IT. And I asked about the hacking, and I asked if, I said, I'm looking at how the cybersecurity, how big do you think the Iranian threat is? And I noticed the Department of Homeland Security, that was another thing I wanted to talk about, has scrubbed everything on their website before January 2025. So you can't see what the information was before 2025. And I asked him, is the language Iranian scare tactics. And his answer to me was, who knows what to believe coming out of our authoritarian dictatorship in DC. Cyber threats are very real. And it's too bad the fascists gutted the CISA. So we're going to look at CISA. So we're going to look at it. But the targeted hacks are government agencies and energy companies, telecommunications, defense contractors, financial institutions, critical infrastructure, and we know Israel, they hack everywhere. So Iran, I guess, is playing the game. Russia hacks. You think the United States doesn't hack everywhere else too? I mean, hacking is a big thing. And some of the tools are spear phishing and malware, backdoors, stolen credentials. Haven't we all gotten letters from companies that say they were hacked? I just got one the other day that said I could buy into a lawsuit, and I'll probably get like $30. Okay, because they were hacked. And some more tools are the remote monitoring software, the cloud. Yeah. And these are long-term espionage campaigns. It's not like just yesterday. No. So in 2026, in March, some say that some of these things have been detected inside the United States. The U.S. airport, a bank, nonprofit, a software company with Israeli connections. And they found malware. Researchers found malware. Dindor, it's called Dindor backdoor and fake set Python malware. There's all kinds of things I've learned. I mean, again, in 1 hour, and I am not a cybersecurity expert at all. Although, I mean, I do have people to ask, like that person that I'm very close to, who wants me to who said maybe I should show CISA. So why don't I bring that to the stage and show you what CISA is. Hang on. I want to bring that. Let's bring that up. And it's a share screen that I have to do. Okay, share my screen. And I want to show you what CISA is and what happened to CISA. Okay, here it is. All right, we're going to share this. Let me put it in. Sorry, this is where I get notchy with this. All right, across party lines and the industry, the verdict is the same. CISA is in trouble. The agency lost a third of its people in a year. Now industry and lawmakers on both sides say it's unprepared for a potential crisis. Now, this was in February 25th, and what happened? We got in World War III on February 28th. Decimated, amateur hour, pretty much fallen apart. It's really hard to find something positive to say right now. It's been a little more than a year into the second Trump administration, and there's a large consensus, if not total unanimity, among those who have worked with and for the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. It has suffered significantly during that time. CISA has lost roughly a third of its personnel and shuttered entire divisions. Observers across the political spectrum told Cyberscoop for this story that even on its core missions, like coordinating with industry and protecting federal networks, the agency is significantly diminished. Many sources that spoke with Cyberscoop did so under condition of anonymity in order to be more candid or avoid retribution. And the biggest problems was Trump's ire over the 2020 election results that led to the agency being deprioritized within the administration. Congress has yet to approve the administration's permanent pick to the agency. Sean Planky and the lawmakers have failed to do other things to strengthen it. CISA's capabilities have been significantly diminished by loss of personnel, expertise, and programs. So it's a lot like what this government has done to so many other things. CISA's capabilities, diminished. And in absence of a permanent leader, they may have hired somebody recently. I don't know. Acting Director Madhu Kukala has struggled to lead the agency. I don't think anyone would argue he's doing a great job. One person said, but organizations that previously turned to CISA for help now seek alternatives like industry alliances, outside consultants, or government to government partnerships. So where's the blame? Most criticize the administration and Congress, though some faulted one than the other. There's a few bright spots. And while many are pessimistic about the agency's future, others expressed optimism. But the first year results reviews are not glowing. Year one was a tough year, said House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Andrew Garbarino from New York. He noted that a lot of the best and brightest have left the agency, though he did express some optimism. The amount of cyber attacks that our nation is seeing every day, both on the private side and the federal government side. Well, you want your best people there fighting against it. And if there's somewhere else, it definitely leaves people vulnerable. So that was an article I found after my very close person who told me that this fascist government doesn't really want CISA to be wonderful. Although I did look at the CISA website and they are discussing how they're changing. And I watched a podcast who talked about how regulations in the government are not something, and all of this security should be in the private sector, yada, yada. You know the drill about the way they look at everything in this government. Absolutely everything. And Wired had come out with an article about the U.S. grid attack looming on the horizon. A major cyber attack on the U.S. electrical grid has long worried security experts. Such an attack wouldn't be easy, but if an adversary pulled it off, it could be lights out in more ways than one. I will put the link to this in the show notes. Absolutely put the link in the show notes. And I want to just go on a little bit more. Well, I could actually put that up, but I'm not going to. I just want to talk a little bit more about the cyber stuff. I have to find that comment that I starred. The comment from Star. Okay. What about the Iranian sleeper cells? Here, should we put that up? Iranian sleeper cells. Now, there are Iranian Americans in this country. And when 9/11 happened, I lived in a community where there were a lot of Muslims, and we actually did have 5 people. I believe they were, I don't remember at the time. I didn't pull up the article. 5 guys that were training. They went for training with ISIS. It happened. They lived in Lackawanna. And it was a big deal around here back then. Big deal. So could that happen now? Possibly. But could it happen the way this administration wants to pawn all the fear tactics out on people and make them scared of looking at any brown person that potentially is that might be a Muslim? No, it's just going to cause a lot of heartache, because I remember walking around people back after 9/11, which was done by the Saudis, by the way. And you know who's pals with the Saudis? Jared Kushner, Donald Trump, and his whole fucking dirty family. So now this is going to cause all kinds of problems for Muslim Americans. because the paranoia on the Iranian sleeper cells is going to be insane. It really will. And I'm sorry about it. I feel terrible about it because it's going to happen. Now, I'm going to talk about this other article that I'm going to put up that is interesting. Let's talk about this one before I. All right. This one is from March 6th. Iran linked muddy water hackers target U.S. networks with new DIN backdoor. Now, when I think about those sleeper cells, I think maybe if we have to worry about somebody doing something, it may be hackers. And so all these American companies are now going to be looking at their personnel and their hiring and who's working for them. You bet they will be. But new research from Broadcom, Symantec, and Carbon Black Theater Hunter team has discovered evidence of an Iranian hacking group embedding itself in several U.S. companies' networks, including banks, airports, nonprofits, and the Israeli arm of a software company, which I had mentioned earlier. The activity has been attributed to state-sponsored hacking group called Muddy Water, and they call it Seedworm also. It's affiliated with the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence and Security. The campaign is assessed to have begun in early February, with recent activity detected following, obviously, the military strikes. But this has been stuff that the government, if you look at the Department of Homeland Security website, and you're going to see all that shit. It's just Iran, 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 Iran since the beginning. And they hacked the software company is a supplier to the defense and aerospace industries, among other, and has a presence in Israel, with the company's Israel operation seeming to be the target of this activity. The attacks targeted the software company as well as a U.S. bank and a Canadian nonprofit. They've been found to pave the way for previously unknown backdoor dubbed Dindor, which leverages the Dino JavaScript runtime for execution. Broadcom said it also identified an attempt to exfiltrate data from the software company using the rclone utility to a Wasabi cloud storage bucket. However, it's not known if it paid off. So obviously, the article is talking about all of these different things that they found that are happening in the cybersecurity arena. And I have one more article that I would really like to talk about the medical technology that was just today. I learned about today. And this one is Stryker. You've probably heard about it. Stryker, a medical technology company that provides services and products for hospitals, was disrupted globally by a cyber attack. The company announced March 11th. The company said its Microsoft environment was impacted and that there was no indication of ransomware or malware, because it's not all about ransomware or malware anymore. Stryker said it believed the incident had been contained. We were aware of reports of the cyber attack against Stryker and are actively engaging information with the hospital field and federal government to understand the nature of the threat and assess any impact to hospital operations. So I suppose if a hacker can screw up hospital records and hospital everything, that's a big hurt. And they don't have to bomb a hospital and destroy it from inside. We don't know who did it yet. At the time, we are not aware of any direct impacts or disruptions to U.S. hospitals as a result of the attack. So this may change as hospitals evaluate services and technology and the supply chain related to Stryker, and as the duration of the attack continues. So that is just one thing that happened today that I had seen. And it was, they're upsetting when they happen. They're totally upsetting when they happen. Why wouldn't they be? Right? Why wouldn't they be? Yeah. Okay. So I've given you and I don't have this, I don't have the government Department of Homeland Security website pulled up, but you can go there yourself and see, you can see everything. But, what do you think this group is trying to do really? What do you think the hackers want? Do they want, I mean, especially from a hospital, a company that deals with hospitals. Well, I would say mapping infrastructure, and they want to collect sensitive data. And that, hospitals and a hospital company that manages big systems, there's an awful lot of data there, and sensitive data and communications. And if they infiltrate these networks, which may have been, who knows how long. And I say they because I don't know who, but they can disrupt the systems later on, steal the information, and then conduct the cyber sabotage if a war escalates. So what do you think? What do you really think? Is it false flag season? I'm trying to figure out how to make the Oh, there we go. Is it is it false flag season? All right. So really, it's that's very iffy. So many people want to say that, oh, the United States is setting us up for false flags and all this shit, but it's not fabricated, because these cybersecurity companies, and they're big money in these companies, they track them. And attributing, it's really kind of messy in a cyber war, but we're in one. We're in every kind of war possible. All of the above. War, war, war. It's never certain, the attribution. It's never certain. It really isn't. And governments, they rely on coding, a lot of coding in cyber, in computing. They language and all kinds of things. But there is another reality. Governments really do sometimes they highlight these cyber threats because they want to manipulate you. They want to justify defensive measures. They want to warn infrastructure operators, and they want to build public support for policy. So the support, the threat, it's real, but it could be politically amplified. And that is, a risk. It really is. But we'll tie this up a little bit. What are we thinking about infrastructure disruption and power grid attacks and water systems and ports and airports and corporate espionage and defense contractors and tech companies and psychological operations, even, fake news, hacked leaks, social media manipulation? All of this is happening. All of it. So what should you watch for? What do you think you should watch for? What do you think? We should watch for, and then I want to look at your comments. What should we watch for? I don't have much time left because this is, obviously I'm on a different, I'm on not my own platform, so I have 5 minutes. And I want to say, what should we watch for in the cyber realm? We should watch for power grid outages, major telecom disruptions, large bank system failures, and there was already a bank targeted, satellite internet disruption, and lastly, attacks on an oil pipeline. That could happen. And that would signal escalation. So we need to be prepared. I believe in preparation. Cyber operations like this are normal. This is what happens during geopolitical conflict. And we are in World War III, in my estimation. We don't want to see escalation at all. Nope. but it is, cyber warfare is a permanent background. It's never going away. And so these companies like these cyber hackers, they really are espionage groups. They are valid espionage groups, and they're linked to Iran, but there's other ones that are linked to other countries. And I didn't even go into the companies that the United States hosts and that Israel hosts that hack everybody else. There's enough to go around. But they are active in the United States, and the threat is real. But we don't have to worry directly today, tomorrow, I don't think. I don't think ordinary Americans have to worry. We have to be informed and we have to be prepared. That's what I do think. We definitely have to do that. And we have to be wary of all the amplifying of all the bullshit that this particular government is going to do to try to scare citizens into, yeah, we should be at war. Yeah, let's kill them all over in Iran. Let's just kill them all that shit. That's what we have to be aware of. So let's look at a couple of comments. Okay. I had a starred comment from, this is a good one. There were huge protests at the beginning of the U.S. attacks on Iraq. Why aren't we seeing that now? We're seeing local things. There's local things going on around here. There's the LGBTQ people here. They're protesting like 2 or 3 times a week, and now they've added this to the cadre. Why aren't we going to D.C.? We haven't yet. I went twice to Iraq to protest against Iraq. So I don't know. And then, of course, there was the synagogue, and they should never be targeted. That happened. Also, the incident there, which I don't know a lot about yet, so I really can't speak on it. I really can't. I'm sorry. I know it's something terrible, and I think it was one of the biggest synagogues in the United States. I think that's horrible. I do think it's horrible. All right. So do we have anything else that's related to what I've talked about? Hi, everybody there. Watch out for AI. It's already cooking stuff up. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm really appreciative of all that you came. Don't forget to subscribe to This Space TV. I did this today on Environmental Coffee House. I still haven't gotten Political Coffee House set up on this channel, but I want to tell you that how do I get this off? Okay. I want to tell you that I've only got 272 subscribers there, and I really need to get to 500 at least and watch hours. So I will be taking this video and I will be creating it and repackaging it for Political Coffee House. But I felt that actually this was an Environmental Coffee House kind of show because all of this affects us, all of it, it affects the environment in many ways, because if you target, let's say they target fuel by hydrocarbon depots, that's a problem. If those are targeted by drones, there's so many. So please subscribe to Political Coffee House. Support me. You can support me by buy me a coffee. You can join Environmental Coffee House. Many things. Subscribe to me, please. Subscribe to This Space. This space is doing great things. Thank you to the moderators. Thank you to Alex and Kim and Looney Tunes if you're here. Hello, Poppy. I just want to say hi. Make America Green. Everybody, Johnny Too Late TV. I love you. You're wonderful. You're really a huge help. It's my time to go. So I want to say bye and thank you. Nicholas, I guess it's your time to take me away. I hope you enjoyed the show. And most importantly, I hope you learned something, because that's always my aim.